To bench or not to bench? That is the question.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama, AHSA Radio Network. Luke Robinson, that's me, and Bama Online's Jimmy Stein, that's him. Thank you for making this your first listen every day. Also, this episode is brought to you by GameTime, and I'll tell you about GameTime in just a bit. Alabama tickets will be a little cheaper on GameTime next week, y'all. Just saying. Jimmy, I think the main question on everybody's mind, and I got a lot to say on this, but I'll let you start. To bench or not to bench Jalen Milroe? There are some very ardent Jalen Milroe defenders saying, okay, this is a problem. I want to read, before you get started, one thing that was tweeted out that is pretty unbelievable. This came from the College Football Nerds.
I know those guys. Good dudes.
Yeah, they are good dudes. They're very good at what they do. And here's the tweet. In the 8 years since a true freshman Jalen Hurts lost the 2016 national championship game, Alabama has had just 2 games under 100 QB rating. Those 2 games are 2023 South Florida and 2024 Tennessee. That's how historically bad Jalen Milroe was today. I said on several outlets last week that this game is going to come down to whichever quarterback gains confidence as the game goes on. Clearly, that was Nico. Clearly, Jalen Milroe is playing without any confidence, without any sense of what to do right now. And not only that, and this is something we got to talk about, I'm going to try and find the picture. His body language continues to be very disturbing to me. And I know some people say, well, what are you, a body language expert? Yeah. I'm not. But when your quarterback, when your team is losing in a hostile environment, and your quarterback is supposed to be your leader, and he's on the bench with his hand holding up his face, not making a motion, he's got almost a scowl look on his face, a sour look on his face, or maybe not sour, maybe an indifferent look on his face, sort of glassy-eyed. That's a problem. So, Jimmy, the floor is yours.
Well, I wouldn't bench Jalen Milroe. No way. I mean, right now, here's the difference, though, and how how I feel about this. Right now, absolutely not. I even think the suggestion of it is almost ludicrous, considering literally only 3 weeks ago there was discussion from NFL experts as to whether he should be the first pick in the draft. So, no, I don't think he will be benched. I don't think he should be benched. I don't even think it should even be really out there. But I will say, if he plays that poorly again, I think it's time for a discussion. If he plays that poorly again, and he might, because it's trending that way. I mean, he didn't play well. I said against South Carolina, I thought that might have been his worst game since he became a good player. That might have been his worst game. And then he was considerably worse against Tennessee. Very inaccurate, very poor decisions, holding on the ball too long. A lot of the same mistakes, but compounded with inaccuracy and the inability to run, which I think is partly because he may be hurt just from watching his body language, from watching how he's playing. I'm worried about how healthy he is, which is something we warned about all along because we overran him early in the year and he took a lot of hits, which could explain a lot of this, really. But no, I would. But to answer the question, no, I wouldn't bet. I wouldn't even consider it now. But if he plays that poorly again, you might have to go to tie. You might if he plays that poorly again, but not yet. He's earned with stellar play a lot of leeway here, and this is his football team.
Okay, I agree with you. I know I put the question out there to bench or not to bench. I agree with you.
Talk about everywhere. I mean, we got to talk about here because it's being talked about. It's not like it's not being talked about. It's all over the place. But
no. You're absolutely right. But I'm saying I wouldn't bench him right now either. I'm going to. He is at his leash is now chokingly short. It's not even a leash. He is being held up by his collar.
If he plays really poorly, if he, let's say this, hypothetically, play really poorly, same Jalen against Missouri in the first half, and you're behind 14-3 in the third quarter, and Jalen is exactly like it was at Tennessee, I think you have to go to tie because you got to try to win the game. I just don't believe that will happen. I mean, I'm still a believer in Milroe, and I think it's one game, and he's going to be the.
It's not one, Jimmy. I'll disagree with you there. It's not one game.
Well, I'm hoping a little bit there.
Well, you are, but I mean, you got to think about against South Carolina. Outside of the first drive, he did not play well. He missed a wide open Ryan Williams again. I want somebody to take ownership of the game plan, and this is a Ryan Williams podcast. I want somebody to take ownership of, we just decided to throw the ball to Ryan Williams no matter what and not even worry about anybody else. That was the two coordinators all year long outside of the first half of Georgia have looked like they are out of their league. Let's also say that.
I don't think the plan was to throw it to Ryan 18 times. I think a lot of that was Jalen. I mean, to me, like I just said, I was hoping Jalen would kind of turn into the old Jalen next week, and it wasn't necessarily an analysis. It was more like hope. I think Jalen's game had spiraled to the point that is like, maybe if I just throw it in Ryan's direction, he'll make something happen. I'd rather throw it to a covered Ryan and just hope for the best. I just think those were Jalen's post-snap decisions as opposed to Nick Sheridan in a meeting with Jalen Milroe going, you're going to throw it to Ryan 18 times or I'm going to, make you run a lap.
Okay, that's fair. Very fair. Now, I think it's also fair to say, just like Hugh Freeze is getting admonished by his fan base for saying, hey, you don't give Peyton Thorne the option to do a read option. Say, you are handing it off and you are not checking it. That what you do is you tell Jalen Milroe, here's what we're going to do. We're going to run the ball a little bit. Because I'm going to tell you something again. Beginning of the second half, when Alabama got the ball and they got it to the 50, now it was really a fourth and a long one. And in hindsight, they should have gone for it probably because Tennessee went on a 91-yard drive. But they're running the ball well. And they ran the ball the entire drive. And I think they could have gotten a yard. I really do. And but then after that, I would have told Jalen Milroe, here's the deal. This particular play, don't throw it to Ryan. Just don't. Find anybody else. Dupree was wide open several times. Where was Cuevas yesterday? And again, I'm not saying it's his fault. I'm just saying, where was he in the game plan?
Yeah, and Jeremy Bernard, to me, I get that Ryan's a special out of this world talent, but when we did throw it to Jeremy Bernard, generally good things happen, we definitely over relied on Ryan. We've been over relying on the Milroe runs. Tennessee had clearly studied the heck out of our quarterback sweep. They ended the idea that that was going to be successful, and which reminds me to say, look, so much of what's going on here, social media. The BOL board talk radio this week, so much of it is an overreaction. And this is why it's an overreaction, because none of it acknowledges what Tennessee is: a playoff team, a top 10 team, an elite defense. Elite, maybe the best defense in college football. So it was going to be tough to score. It was going to be tough to move the ball. It would have been tough for anyone to score and move the ball against Tennessee. That's and all of the talk being about Alabama's general suckitude. I get it, because there are a litany of mistakes and errors and things Alabama could have done to potentially change the outcome. But it's a disingenuous conversation without saying, oh yeah, and Tennessee is really good.
Guys, I got to tell y'all about something I used yesterday. Zybotics, and it was great. I used it yesterday, and Lord knows I needed it. It's Zybotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct that's in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break down this byproduct. Just remember to make Zybotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Trust me, I used this yesterday, and it has helped me this morning. Every time I've had pre-alcohol drinks, I notice a difference the next day. Even after a night out or a night of bad football, I can confidently plan on doing anything like this podcast the next day. Look, step 1 is drink Zybotics pre-alcohol. Step 2 is drink responsibly. And step 3 is enjoy tomorrow. Go Zybotics/LockedOnCollege to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use Locked On College at checkout. Zybotics is backed with 100% money guaranteed. So if you're not satisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money. No questions asked. Remember to head to Zybotics.com/LockedOnCollege. Use code LockedOnCollege at checkout for 15% off that order. And trust me, I did use it yesterday. And trust me, it does work. I'm telling you right now. Uh-oh. Now I got to change over to Academy because I love Academy.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I do. Jimmy
Our friends.
They're our buddies.
They're our
Your new Academy Sports and Outdoor store is now open in Birmingham with the best sports equipment, outdoor gear, apparel, and footwear from the brands you love, all at low prices every day. We carry a wide selection of trusted brands like Nike, Stanley, Brooks, Carhartt, Blackstone, Yeti, Titleist, Shimano, and more. Academy has everything you need to gear up for fun, camping, hunting, fishing, tailgating, running, exercising, and more. Plus, you can shop online or on our app with free in-store pickup. Need it fast? They have 1-hour curbside pickup, so you can load up and load out with ease, or enjoy free shopping to your home on purchases over 25 smacks. Your new Academy Sports and Outdoor store is located at 4610 U.S. Highway 280 in Birmingham, so go check them out. Jimmy and I were there just the other day, and if we didn't see you, hey, that's on you, bro, because we told you about it. All right, Jimmy, one other thing that I don't think is getting enough talk because the criticism has been on DeBoer's ability to motivate, DeBoer's ability to discipline, and Milroe's terrible play.
Fair.
Let me throw this out there before I forget it because I don't have it written down. I don't know what Ryan Williams and the other receiver, maybe Jeremy Bernard, I don't remember, were doing when Milroe had the 4th and 1. I think we converted it, but barely. And they jumped up and did a jump shot, like a air jump shot. I think Nick Saban would have had a come apart. And I think that, hey, there's being a player's coach and there's being I don't really give a dang what y'all do. That was stupid looking. That was some Auburn gimmicky crap that I don't want us doing.
Let's see how the season plays out because we're not having this discussion today because I don't think it needs to be a discussion today. But I can foresee the time a discussion is going to come where we're deciding the dividing line between a player-led team and inmates running the asylum. I mean, there's a line there. And I'm not saying that he's on one side or the other. I think the season's not over. And let's see how it all plays out. And we're just 7 games into a new era. So I'm not saying that that's the case, but I'm saying you can see it from here, that discussion. Yeah.
And by the way, Marquise Mays, who is he's a fun follow on Twitter, and he is a Gump, and I love Marquise Mays, and I appreciate everything he did for the University of Alabama. He was having a back and forth with somebody, an Alabama fan on Twitter. I just noticed this. And the Alabama fan used that, old cliche, hey, are we letting inmates run the asylum? And Marquise Mays, I don't think he's hadn't heard that analogy or that cliche before. And he was like, what are you trying to say? He took it as an offensive thing. And I just want to be clear, Jimmy meant no offense by it. If anybody's listening and doesn't understand, that is an old saying, essentially saying you can't let the players run the coach. You can't let the players run the program is essentially what it's saying. And when you say inmates run the asylum, you're saying
mental hospital, I think.
Right. It has nothing to do with anything else. So I just want to be clear on that because there could be a younger audience that doesn't understand that old saying.
Okay. Well, you can't let the players
run the program,
do whatever they want and run the team as they see fit. They're 18 to 22 years old. They're just out of high school. They need a coach that sets rules and instills some level of discipline. Now, player-led is great, but not player-led acting like crazies and fools. You can't do that. And about the taking the jump shot thing, I mean, I hated it myself, but I think, again, on that play, it's 4th and 1. Ryan Williams and Jeremy Bernard's job on that play is simply to line up wide. That's their job. That's the job. They're not making a block because the play's over. It's going to be a quarterback sneak. Their job is just to get 2 guys away from the box. Y'all are out of the box because we're running a sneak. That was their whole job there. I guess because they had, quote, nothing to do on that play, they thought that would be funny or cool or whatever it was. They were wrong. They were wrong. It wasn't.
And not only that, it's not like you have nothing to do. Sell what you're doing. Sell it. That would be a Nick Saban detail issue. Now,
yeah, that's a great point because they had nothing to do, but heck, look like you're running her out. Maybe somebody inside the box sees you juke and like, oh my God, he's going to throw it. And then that's all you need to make the half yard,
Now, we need to go to the OL for a second because they did not play well. This is from Pro Football Focus. Caden Proctor, who has been playing unbelievably all year. I don't know that he may have given up 1 pressure all year and no sacks. He gave up 3 pressures and had 2 penalties this game. Tyler Booker, 1 pressure, 0 penalties. Parker Brailsford, 2 pressures, 1 penalty. Jaden Roberts, 0 pressures, 1 penalty. And Elijah Pritchett, 6 pressures, 0 penalties. 6 pressures. I mean, we've got to do something to give him some help over there because, again, I'm not even blaming Elijah Pritchett at this point. Just like, in the Sheila days, I kind of quit blaming Chris Capps, and then I came full circle and did blame him. But when your coach sees that this guy's giving up pressure, you got to get somebody over there to help him. Maybe we have to change our scheme, whatever. But he's not doing a good job, and it's not his fault. He needs help.
I do agree we needed to do more. We talked about that matchup all week long, about how Kevin Kennard at South Carolina just absolutely controlled the game at times, and we worried that James Pierce would do that, and that's exactly what happened. I think Pritchett is a good player that's getting better and better. He just showed last night that he's not quite good enough to handle James Pierce. While I know that that's going to freak out a lot of Alabama fans, it doesn't freak me out at all. James Pierce is hard to handle for every single college football player, which is why there's even discussion he could be the top pick in the NFL draft. He's extremely difficult to block one-on-one. I'm with Luke. If there was something to be done, it was put the tight end to that side, chipping with the back, do something because Pritchett can't handle Pierce by himself. And that's, again, typical of what happens in Tennessee games every week. He's a dominant player. And it gets back to what I said earlier in the show about how disingenuous it is to have the discussion about how bad Alabama was without acknowledging, oh yeah, Tennessee's really good. And I think when you're talking about the offensive line and its terrible performance, and it was pretty bad. I thought it was nearly ridiculously bad, frankly. But Tennessee's going to make some offensive lines look like that. Again, they might be the most elite defense in college football. And it all starts up front for them. Pierce is a game-wrecking difference maker, and they exposed this Alabama offensive line. What I'm really disappointed in, and I'm going to rewatch the first half today with notes on BOL, of course, but I think even Proctor and Booker, who are good players, struggled big time last night, and that says a lot. I know Booker's a good player, and Proctor was becoming one before the game yesterday, Luke. Per Pro Football Focus, and I'm not warranting this information because it sounds too far out there for me, but per Pro Football Focus, and you were just, talking about them, Caden Proctor had not given up a pressure all season. No sacks, no pressures. That's amazing through 6 full football games. But then last night, I mean, I don't know what they're going to have him down for, but I saw Proctor miss multiple blocks that caused Jalen Milroe problems.
Time for a little talk on Game Time because I love Game Time. And look, hey, I told you, if you want to get some Alabama, Missouri tickets, I bet you can get them a little cheaper than you could have yesterday. Go get you some Bama, Missouri tickets and go to the game. Game's at 2:30 on ABC, and Game Time's going to let you see exactly where you're going to sit, and they're going to give you the best price guaranteed because I've used Game Time a bunch myself. Let me tell you what I did when I was out in Utah recently. I was out in Salt Lake City, and I don't know if I told this story on here, but David Locke, who started the Locked On Network, he's the play-by-play host for the Utah Jazz. I reached out to him because he was doing the Utah Jazz game that night, and he didn't get back to me until later. But because I didn't get him in time to get me some tickets, I said, I'm just going to go on Game Time. Got me a Utah Jazz ticket to go in the Delta Center and just check it out for $1. I went in and just checked it out. I didn't really watch much of the game. I'm just one of those guys that likes to look at a venue, and I didn't really care about the Jazz or the Kings. So I just went in. I was like, yeah, for $1, I'll just go in and check out the Delta Center, and I'll just see what's going on. And it was awesome. It was just beautiful. And I loved it. And I love Game Time because I've used it for Major League Baseball, used it for concerts, used it for World Series, used it for college baseball, college basketball, college football, NFL. I've used it for everything because it's fantastic. You need Game Time in your life. It's so easy to use, can see where you're going to be sitting, and it's awesome. Go check it out. Game Time, because what time it is, it's Game Time. All right, Jimmy. So really quickly, I got a couple of things to go. I want to ask you about the rest of the way, what you think, and also where would you rank Bama right now? I saw Brett McMurphy, I think, has us at number 21, and I think that may be a little harsh. I think we're getting penalized for being Bama there versus getting the benefit of the doubt. I would probably have us about 15 or 16 because we still did beat Georgia. Now, let's also say this. The goodwill from that Georgia win is gone. The goodwill's gone.
Well, it's on the resume. I mean, the goodwill might be gone, but it's on the resume, and it's going to be very helpful to Alabama should there ever be a playoff discussion that Alabama's in it. I don't even know about that. To me, I'm just like rest of the way. To me, it's just like I would focus on getting better because you need to get better to beat Missouri because the Alabama team that played last night or yesterday in Knoxville is probably not good enough to beat Missouri. So I would focus on Missouri and getting better. I think it's going to be a 60-minute game based on what I've seen. In terms of where I'd rank Alabama, I would probably put Alabama near the top of the 2-loss teams. I'm not sure if there's a 2-loss team out there I would rank ahead of Alabama. I'd have to think through it, but I think Alabama should be the top 2-loss team. I mean, losing to a top 10 team on the road, which is what Alabama did yesterday, that really shouldn't harm your rankings. It's fine if you fall out of the top 10 because you just couldn't beat another top 10 team. Falling completely out of the top 20 seems overkill to me based on the fact that Vanderbilt's been pretty good too. So I don't know. I mean, off the top of my head, I would say I would have Alabama around 16th. I mean, but again, I've not looked at that. I'll look at the rankings that come out later today and then have a stronger opinion about it. But I don't know, around 16th sounds right to me. I would just focus on Missouri. You're going to beat Mercer, most likely. You're going to beat Mercer. That leaves just 4 games. The home games against Missouri and Auburn, the road games against Oklahoma and LSU. I assume nothing. Alabama has shown, they have demonstrated they could lose to any and all 4 of those teams.
Agreed.
They have also shown they can beat all 4 of those teams. I'm as curious as you to see what's going to happen.
I got to go on a rant here about SEC officiating.
Oh, yes. Please do.
Now, first of all, it was horrendous again in Knoxville. For the second trip to Knoxville, Alabama was overly penalized and several calls that either shouldn't have been made or should have been made and weren't called, whatever. Just atrocious. Yes, Alabama's undisciplined. I get that. And I think that they deserve some of those calls. There's no doubt. There was a couple of offsides on Tennessee's that weren't called. The non-pass interference where you're ripping Ryan Williams' jersey completely is just – it's inexcusable. And the Kendrick Law, yes, we said this yesterday. The Kendrick Law push was stupid. The player for Tennessee retaliated with a punch, and it wasn't called. That officiating crew needs to be disciplined. That being said, they weren't the worst crew yesterday. The worst crew yesterday was Georgia, Texas. And I'm going to tell you this. They set a precedent yesterday. You throw bottles, you pitch a fit long enough, you throw bottles, delay the game, act like a bunch of jackasses from the student section.
It pays off.
It pays off. They set that precedent. Now, was the call wrong? Yes. That also adds to what I'm saying in this argument, that they missed the call to begin with. Did they ultimately get the call right? They did, but the way you get there in such a circuitous route is terrible. And it's a horrible precedent. And if you're going to do that, then somebody should have stepped in 2 years ago in 2022 and said, hey, that wasn't pass interference. And Alabama should have won that game. So
it's the perfect motto. It's the perfect motto. SEC officials, even when they get it right, they're terrible because they did get that call right and went about it terribly. It set I'm not, I know Kirby saying it set a precedent, and you said it set a precedent. I don't know that I'll go that far with it, but just the very fact that it happened is outrageous. I mean, that's outrageous. And I don't care that they ultimately got the call right. What I care about is they butchered another call, as they're doing in every game, and then they made it worse.
And not only that, Jimmy, and this is, I'm not so sure, it sets a precedent of this. I don't know necessarily that they're going to change the call if you throw trash on the field. But what it does is tell fans, what are they going to do if what punishment? There is no punishment.
There should have been a penalty against Texas for their fans throwing stuff on the field. There should have been that, and there wasn't. No, instead they're going to help Texas and tell y'all were right to throw things on the field, and we were wrong. That's the way it kind of came across. But no, it was terrible, and the officiating in the Alabama game was terrible. I so hate saying that after a loss, because it makes it sound like
it does make it sound petty, but it wasn't.
Yeah, I'm not blaming the loss on the officiating. I'm just saying the officiating is terrible. It's terrible.
It is indefensible. And I feel like at this point in the game, now that there's always been a lot of money involved with college football. Now there's so much money involved. You've got to get guys better. And here's the other thing. Get rid of replay. I mean, everybody keeps saying, well, we have replay so we can get the call right. But you don't use it all the time. And even when you do use it all the time, it doesn't get the call right. Because I'm going to tell you something. If there should have been replay use on when, for instance, Tennessee was offsides on one time that ended up in a sack. Why not use replay there? It was clear. It was offsides.
Yeah, offsides. Offsides really is no different than inbounds, out of bounds.
Exactly.
I mean, you're either offsides or you're not.
I'm just saying, the SEC owes its fans and its teams and its programs better than this. This whole bunch is awful. And
it's every week. It's
every single
complaining
week
about it every week, win or lose. And some calls benefit Alabama and no calls benefit Alabama. It happens too. It's not Alabama. It's SEC officiating, to me, has hit an all-time low.
Rock bottom. I don't think there's any doubt about it. So, Jimmy, the rest of this week, this is a huge week for Kalen DeBoer. I'm going to tell you what, you lose to Missouri at home, people are going to lose their minds, probably us. He has to beat this Missouri team. I'm going to tell you, I watched Missouri all day yesterday. Yeah, they're a better team with Cook in there at quarterback, but they're not really good. They're fine. They're not really good.
They shouldn't beat Alabama. They shouldn't. But I bet this is a close game. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be 60 minutes.
Well, the season starts next week because, again, nobody wants to hear this because we're all in a bad mood. Alabama wins out there in the playoffs. I will take 100%.
100%.
Now, and if you can get by Missouri, the next two games are the toughest. Missouri, who's going to be probably in the top, ranked higher than Bama, and then LSU, who will almost assuredly be ranked higher than Bama.
Top 10 for now. Let's see if they beat A&M next week.
Yep.
I mean, that's probably the game of the weekend, LSU at Texas A&M. I like A&M. Why? Because it's in College Station. If the game was in Baton Rouge, I'd pick it the other way.
And here's the other thing. I'm fine with a non-SEC championship appearance for Bama. We probably don't even need it at this point. It's going to be better for us if we can just win out and not make the SEC title game. I hate feeling that way. I love SEC championships. We got 30 of them. I love them.
Yeah.
For a shot at the playoffs, I'm not going to say national championship. This is not a national championship team. For a shot at the playoffs, it's better for us if we don't go to the SEC title game. And at this point, I'm treating this season a lot like you treat the NCAA tournament. I would rather not go to the SEC title game and get to the NCAA tournament and make a run than win the SEC title or win the SEC tournament and be put out in the first round or not make it at all or whatever. So that's me.
Yeah, I just, SEC championship playoff, to me, it's about you've got to become a better football team than you've been. And that's going to start with Missouri. And I think just focusing on the first offensive and defensive possessions of the Missouri game. And then what happens. Missouri's a good team. No doubt they're a good team. They're ranked where they are because they're a good football team. Should they beat Alabama? No. Alabama's got more good players than Missouri does, and they're playing at home. And no, Alabama should win this game. They'll be favored to win. They should win. But Missouri's good, and I suspect it's going to be a good football game. And I say that good football game. I'd rather it kind of be a bad game that everybody turns off because Alabama's up 42-0. But I don't foresee that.
That's going to do it for today's pod. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.